G'day, race fans, and welcome back to KerbRider F1 podcast. This week we are talking about the round two rundown, the Chinese Grand Prix from Shanghai. And this time around, I have Mike Boyd opposite me to be my now regular co-host of this. Welcome to the show, Mike. Thanks for reaching out and coming along. How are you?
Not a problem at all. G'day, Adam. Very well. How are you?
Excellent. Excellent. Now that I've got you to bounce off now or bounce off each other and talk about a thing we both love. I just want to, I guess, introduce each other or ourselves to kind of ourselves, but also to the audience. So just wanting to know how long you've been, your history with Formula One, your history of the sport. So how long you've been following, maybe who your favorite drivers have been, your favorite, I may maybe touch on a couple of favorite seasons or races, whatever you want to touch on. Whatever springs to mind.
Look, I've been a Formula One fan. I've been a fan of motorsport since I was, a small boy. But certainly a fan of motorsport since the sort of late '80s, early '90s. Back in the sort of the really hard days of not as many races, and obviously we had the Australian Grand Prix from 1996 in Melbourne. But being a Formula One fan back then in Australia tended to be a lot of late nights and horrendous commentary and presentation of Formula One by Channel 9. So, it's certainly got a lot better in recent years. I've always been a Schumacher fan. I've always enjoyed that. I think certainly, memorable moments. I mean, I remember watching Ayrton Senna's crash live. In 1994, that was really really tough to. That was a tough night, but then also I've done some Grand Prix. I've done Melbourne in 2001, which was fantastic, and then just been a very much an avid fan. I've dabbled in sort of a bit of photography with Formula One. I was on the Harbour Bridge when Mark Webber did his run in his car. So, I've since had a few chats to Mark on other different podcasts that I've been involved with. So, I've been lucky to have a fair amount of
you buried the lead.
Yes, but get my sort of my feet wet in Formula One here and there. So it's good, and I think for 2026 the season opener or certainly the first two races have augured well for what I think is going to be a very interesting run through to the final race in November.
It is going to be a very interesting season. I like that you touched on you're a Schumacher fan because we would have had some good conversations back then because I'm a big Mika Hakkinen fan. So those years were very, very good to me. 2000 and 2001 was very tough, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Mika was there
tough.
and then he got sick of it. So did the Baz. But yeah, no, they were good days. They were, some glory days in Formula One. I love the 90s is probably my favorite decade if I had to pick a decade. But I used to.
Yeah, I think it was one of those decades where there was just, we talked about it earlier today, just that level of what the cars could do relative to what the technology was in the mainstream was just so far apart. Whereas now, a lot of the technology in the cars is amazing, but as we were talking about before, hybrid systems on cars are sort of, run of the mill now.
Yes.
So it's nothing necessarily that removed from what you can walk out in the street and buy today.
No, and I guess that's the whole point that they changed this for this formula, especially since 2014, is to make the cars a bit more road relevant. That was the whole goal, and they changed this formula again to attract more OEMs into the business, which is why we've got Audi, Honda stayed in the end, and Ford have come in. So Cadillac potentially, do you reckon they'll actually build an engine?
Look, I think you'd have to think they would, and look, they've shown some promise already. I mean, they had a double finishes on Sunday in Shanghai, so credit to them. I mean, there was I don't think there was a lot of high hopes for them initially, but it's this is a consistency game that everyone knows, and just turning up and just finishing, that's a big deal for a new team which has started from basically nothing. And
absolutely. Yeah.
And yes, you'd have to think that the might of Cadillac would be thinking that they'll be very much building their own top to tail cars, much like what Audi has done, and obviously what Mercedes and Ferrari have done.
Yeah, I hope they do. Yeah, I hope they do because it'd be good to have another engine in the sport. But yeah, I think they're doing, for me, they're doing exactly what I think they should be doing. They're not overachieving, they're not underachieving for me. Like they're this first year team. It's a big production. So yeah, I think they're doing very well. But anyway, we probably should roll into the sprint. We had a sprint weekend in China this weekend, and we'll just touch on the sprint race pretty quickly. George Russell won that from Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton, I don't know why I said it like that. Norris was fourth. Kimi Antonelli fifth after some kerfuffling in the first few laps. Piastri was sixth. Lawson had a good weekend overall, finishing seventh, and Ollie Behrman, the young gun of the year at the moment,
Yeah.
finished eighth in the sprint and picked up the last point. Some notable absences from there, particularly is Max Verstappen. I figured out just before we started recording, the second time he hasn't scored points in a sprint race since sprint races have been around in 2022 they began. So that's not a bad record, to be honest.
Yeah,
Right,
I think Max wouldn't be very happy. I think heading, I presume he's probably heading home before he's heading to Tokyo, but or to
straight to the
Suzuka.
simulator, I reckon.
Yes, probably because and look, I think he's been very vocal that he hasn't found the vibe of the cars, and unfortunately, it's also showing in some of his performances. Crashing out in qualifying in Melbourne, and then finishing out of the points in the sprint, and then DNFing in the main race. I think different thing if it was just finishing sort of fifth or sixth in a few of the races, but to not actually bring a car home, that changes things pretty significantly. Yeah,
when you and Max is if anyone's going to drive a car to the absolute limit, it's going to be Max or Fernando, in my opinion. So for him not to be making Q3s says a lot about the car.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it's more his discomfort with the cars or his anger at the formula, because I don't think that would affect the way he drives to the max, pardon the pun. It's 100% a car thing. I think you can correlate that with how close Isaac Hadjar has been to him through every practice session, through every qualifying. Max only out qualified him by a tenth, but even through their similar runs through even practice, sprint qualifying, Isaac was either on his speed a little bit in front or not too far behind all the time, and it's been pretty impressive. And I did have kind of pondered the thought whether that was just because of this whole new formula of cars, and obviously the previous generation of cars were a lot harder to drive, particularly that second Red Bull. So it would have been interesting to see how Liam would go against Max in this car, or even Sergio, how he'd go against him, because I think they would be a lot closer. I don't know that it's that previous formula, like so for 2025, that car was built for Max and Max only. That's how it was developed, that's why Red Bull dug their own hole. And I think Christian Horner would have been a big reason why Christian Horner was ousted, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to play out this year is, some of these pairings, and we'll touch on it a bit more, later on. But some of these pairings, I think, are very, very good, like really good tight pairings. I mean, George and Kimi, that's a good pairing. I think Max and Isaac, that's a good pairing. I think Albon and Sainz, I actually think that's a really good pairing. I mean, I think Williams has just got other issues that they're working through, and I also think the Lawson and what's his name,
Arvid Lindblad.
Yeah, Lindblad. I mean, I think again they were really strong in Melbourne. So I think there are some really, really good pairings, and equally, I think there are some pretty bad ones. I mean, I still scratch my head at Aston Martin. There's nothing like being a nepo baby.
You're not Robinson Crusoe there. If it wasn't anyone else, he would have been out of the sport 3 or 4 years ago.
Arguably wouldn't have got in. So,
arguably wouldn't have got in without a lot of that money. Yeah, he paid Williams a lot of money to get in.
And I don't know how Fernando he must wake up every morning and
Mm.
either just open his banking app on his phone and go, yep, that'll do, and then hop out of
Well,
bed.
years ago when he quit for a couple of years, he moved from Monaco back to Spain, and everyone was like, "Why would you do that? You have to pay so much more tax in Spain." He goes, "Well, instead of 50 million, I have 40 million. Boo hoo!" Like that was basically what he replied, and I was.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's 44, isn't he? He's approaching
Yep.
45 for a
Yep.
Formula One driver, and he's still beating Lance by way more.
Oh,
And Lance is very experienced. He's been driving for what, 8 years now, and he's still only in his mid-20s. Like he started when he was 18. He should be at his peak. Lance is at his peak performance, I think, right now.
yeah.
And he's still getting outdone by a 45-year-old man. It's
Look, I think there's a talent gap there that you could park a bus in.
exactly, yeah,
It's
absolutely,
it's not an age thing. I mean, I think there's just Fernando is,
But
he's just,
I kind of mentioned it because I think if you had Piastri in there instead of Fernando, if Fernando's beating him by 3/10, I would imagine Piastri's beating him by 7 or 8 every lap.
yes,
That's what I mean by because the
yes,
age would
sorry,
have slowed
yes.
Fernando down. So yeah,
Oh, yeah. Look, he's still. I mean, I can't remember where it was, but I think it was Canada a year or two ago. He came home in the podium. Like he still knows how to drive that, drive a Formula One car and
on
drive
his
a Formula
day,
car very, very well.
yeah, yeah. Talking about
And
Lance, right?
No. And there's some great footage. I can't remember where it's from, but it's the cars going through over the years, going through the swimming pool complex at Monaco,
Yeah.
and someone's put a sort of a montage together, and it pops up on social media occasionally. But you can see that I think there's one or two examples of Fernando going through that that complex, and I think in the
'05 Renault or something.
Yes, I think there, and then I
In that
think it
era.
might be in the ING branded one in sort of '08, but that
Right.
watching him go through that complex in that 2005 Renault is just
It's incredible,
phenomenal,
yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. So it's the speed and the yaw movement of the car as it goes, in that sort of left and right, and I suspect he's with the right car and the right conditions, he'd be just as competitive now.
He's a few points off being a 4 or 5 time world champion. Like he should have won more championships. 2012, he should have won
Absolutely.
2012. That
Yes.
he was very
Yes.
hard done by in 2012.
Yep.
But then I think another one or two he would have been. Yeah,
I mean,
in the right car at the right time, he would have been up there with Hamilton.
Yeah, I think he should have won. I think he should have won a championship with Ferrari, and I think he probably should have won because what do you have 2 years off from McLaren? I think he could have won.
Yeah,
Should have won a championship in one of those years that he had off. If he just hadn't had that,
he
falling out with Lewis and Ron sort of,
Yeah.
favouring Lewis. Not that favouritism hasn't played a part in Formula One ever before. But I think that's where, you're right. I think Fernando history won't be as kind to him as it probably should have.
he didn't fulfill his potential.
No,
I mean, in my opinion, he's one of the greatest racers of all time. I think he's probably. I mean, amongst the GOATs, who are the GOATs who have won multiple world champions, I'd put Fernando in the top 5 to 8 best drivers of all time.
That's a big call.
Yeah, I think he's that good. I do think he's that good.
5 to 8. Yeah,
I'd put him in front of Mika Hakkinen, to be honest.
So would I.
Yeah, and I love Hakkinen's my all-time favourite driver.
Yeah.
But I think Fernando's better than him.
Yes, and I think that Fernando's just his longevity and look, don't forget he stepped away, as you said, for 2 years and came back.
Yeah,
how many drivers have done that? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Michael did, and he come back, didn't do very well.
No, but he was. I mean, his thing was probably more of a timing thing with Mercedes coming in, and he had a long history with Mercedes, and and of course Ross was was running the team at the time. So it would have been
Yeah.
a fairly easy phone call for Ross to make. Look, hey, Michael, I know you're
Mm.
not going to do it for a quid, but can you just come and help us,
Yeah,
run it?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to put a
Yeah.
young, um, Finn/German in the car beside you, and
Yep.
he's just gonna essentially study at your knee
Yeah.
and see how you go.
And study he did.
Yeah,
That
that's
2016
right.
season was a pretty epic season from him. Again,
That's right.
I mean, with it wasn't from bad luck for Lewis. I mean, Lewis could be honestly a 9-time world champion easily. If just from a couple of bad luck, that blown engine in Malaysia, he would have won 2016 without that.
Yep.
He was in front pretty comfortably at that point, and obviously his rookie season 2007 with that. If he didn't go into the gravel trap in the China pit lane,
Yes.
that championship was his. He would have sewn it
Yep.
up at that race.
Yep. Yep.
So there's two that he lost because of bad luck or unreliability.
Yeah, well, I'm not so.
And
I'm not a.
2021.
I'm not a. I haven't been a big Lewis fan,
Mm,
but it's funny. It's my son has said it to me a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. That Lewis is, as he's aged, he's got a little bit more likable. If you didn't like him, and I think my son's got a point there. You're sort of like, I was really happy to see him on the podium the other day. I think I found it a bit chintzy that Mercedes has sort of been milking it, going, "Hey, we've got 3 people on the podium." It's like, yeah, funny. I actually think. I mean, I imagine it's probably big news in the press in Italy today, but I sort of feel like Ferrari haven't made a big enough deal of it. But I don't live on social media, as much as I used to. So maybe it has been fairly prevalent there, but but I do sort of think, there's a part of me that goes, I don't want Lewis to surpass Michael in terms of world championships.
I don't think a lot do. I don't think Michael
But at the
Massey
same
did.
time, to his credit, you sort of go, but Jesus, if he won a world championship for Ferrari, this year, next year, I can't remember what his terms of his contract are, and became the 8-time world champion. I don't think anyone's ever going to surpass that. And B,
No, I don't
for
think
him
even Max will.
to finally sort of get the monkey off his back, get his eighth, get it with Ferrari. You sort of go, mate, that's a fair old innings.
I agree. Like, I've always been a fan of Lewis because I think he come in, but I'm not a mega fan of Lewis. I'm kind of neutral on him as a human being, to be honest, because I think he's very much a marketer. Once he got himself into the sport and got a name for himself, he very much concentrated on his image and on his outward persona. So I think he's a bit phony at times, to be honest. So, but as a racer, you can't fault. He's definitely one of the GOATs. But the one thing stopping Lewis winning his 8th championship is Leclerc. I don't think he'll ever beat Leclerc in that team. Over the course of this
Isn't
season,
that funny?
Leclerc will beat him.
I wonder if this year Lewis hasn't got the medal over Charles.
I don't think.
And
he has
again,
the
we're
talent.
only two races in, so I mean, I think
Yeah.
we might be a bit premature, but
He's-
as much as they were sort of dueling on Sunday, and that was great to see.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was amazing.
You do also sometimes think, when teammates are dueling, you just think,
Yes.
this is at some point is this going to end in disaster?
Yeah,
But at the same time, I wonder whether Charles. I think Lewis is. I get the sense that Lewis has got the ability to get in his teammate's head.
Yeah.
Really deeply and
Yep.
really and really quickly. And I would suspect that it wouldn't take much for Lewis, a podium and then maybe a few other, out qualifying Charles.
Yeah.
And Charles might be a bit, this is just takes his eye off the ball. And Charles, he's gotten married and he's doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing I'm sort of a little bit concerned about some of these guys at the moment is, and I understand it's the way that Formula One's kind of evolved and it's Drive to Survive and it's F1 movie, but I really am giving less and less sort of interest in what they're doing off the track because you really want the focus to be, guys, just on the track.
it's kind of the social media, and because the drivers have to promote their own image because it makes them bank as well, is we do know too much about them. We never used to know shit about what these drivers
No,
did between races. Never knew a
no.
thing. Like they're off sunning themselves in Sardinia on a yacht in the Mediterranean. We didn't know and we didn't want to know. But
No,
now
didn't
it's
care.
just they're getting papped all the time, and it's
Well,
like
they're papping themselves. I mean, it's
yeah,
they're
yeah,
and I think that's part of the challenge is that for some of them, I think with Drive to Survive and less so the F1 movie, but just Drive to Survive and the um the increase in popularity in particularly in North America,
mhm,
but also
yeah,
in Southeast Asia. I think a lot of the drivers are sort of going, well, hang on, I want to be able to kind of drive a bit of that myself as well. So, which is credit to them.
yeah.
But
A,
yes, I sort of
a lot of
almost
them
sort of
saw. A lot of them saw what Drive for Survive did for Daniel Ricciardo, because the whole world loved Ricciardo because of his persona. He's just being himself. And I think a lot of drivers have seen what it can make for them because Daniel's happily retired, got his own businesses, investing in so many different things.
yeah.
And I think they go on social media, I guess, to get ahead of the paparazzi, but also just to brand recognition, like creating their own brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And I, look,
that's
and I think,
driven
and I
a lot
think
of it.
Daniel, you're right. Daniel did that very well. It was great for the sport in this country.
Mm, mm,
But I think he also did it at a time when, because I think what Drive to Survive did early on is it made the likes of Sky Sports and others and Channel Four,
mm,
or was it the BBC, whoever the other broadcaster from the UK was,
mm.
Drive to Survive made them lift their game very quickly as well.
Yes, yeah.
So those first few seasons of, or if you actually go back and watch, the any sort of highlights or any footage from the season or two prior to Drive to Survive, so my maths isn't good as to how far you'd have to go back now, but
I can't
versus
remember.
those seasons after Drive to Survive came
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
the quality and particularly the off track interviews and
Yeah.
exposés, and whether you had the likes of Eddie Jordan, who I know you
Mm,
love, and I
mm.
love Natalie Pinkham. They would, some of the work
Yeah.
that they would do with the
Yeah.
drivers, really amplified off the back of Drive to Survive, because I think those networks realised that. And I heard someone say this the other day, that Drive to Survive is wonderful, but it's
Mm.
it's it's just a snapshot in time, and it's because for better or worse, because it's been sort of done by Netflix, it's artificially directed, for lack of a better
Yes.
term. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably know the terminology better than I do, but you know what I mean. Like
It's fake.
it's
Fake
it's
is the
it's
great word to
it's
describe it.
staged, it's fake,
Yeah. It's
it's
dramatized.
contrite. So you sort of go,
Yeah.
"Ugh, okay, great," but
Yeah.
whereas I think as a result of that, the purists who go, well, I can watch Drive to Survive if I just want some, meaningless entertainment, and you could say the
Yeah.
same of the Formula One movie, but at
Mm.
least then that when you sit down on a Sunday or a Monday, whenever you or a Saturday, to watch quali or to watch a race, sprint race or a full race, the quality of the broadcast that's coming,
Yeah.
via KO, or, which whether you choose the Sky Sports or whoever else you watch, the quality of those actual broadcasters over a weekend, are massively improved thanks to Drive to
Yeah.
Survive.
That's a really good point, and it's something I don't think I'd ever really noticed. I guess for me it just happened naturally. But I'm glad you brought it up because I'm actually really happy with what Sky do, especially in the last year or two. You mentioned Pinkham. Is she on the roster this year, or did she quit? Because I remember they gave us a list. I can't
No,
remember seeing her
she
name.
thanks to social media. No, she had an operation. She had something.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what it was. A growth or something in her neck. And
Ah,
I,
yes.
I
Yeah.
apologise profusely for not being more sort of clear on the details. But I
No,
know
that's all
she's
right.
been recovering from that, and I think
Gotcha.
she is. I saw something that she posted the other day that she's on deck for Suzuka.
Oh, cool,
Yeah.
excellent.
So no,
Love to hear it.
she's been resting and recovering. So
Good.
no, she'll be back, and she's awesome. I
Yeah, I
love
like
her.
Pinkham.
I think
Yeah,
she's just she knows a lot about the sport,
yeah,
and I think
yeah. She's a
I
good
think
sense of
she
humor about it as well.
yes, she's a very good foil for Martin and for
Simon,
Simon and Crofty.
Simon's
So yeah,
Simon's a tool. He's a weird one.
that's
I
harsh.
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit, but he's okay. But he's something about him I don't like. I miss Karoon Chandhok. I think
Yes,
Chandhok. He's the best
yes,
analyst they have, next to
yes.
Martin, I think. But
Oh, Anthony's not bad.
Anthony's good. I love his little Skypad stuff. But
Well,
I
and I think he's
Karoon,
found his. I think he's found the right groove with that little sky pad. I think he
yeah,
does that very well.
he does. Um, yeah, Karoon just has so much recourse. He's like a photographic memory when it comes to
Yes,
stuff like that. And I used to try and commit stuff like that to memory when I was younger, but that's yeah. Now anyway, I can barely remember my name. So
yes,
I don't do that anymore. Anyway, we'll get on with the race itself. Well, not the race itself. We'll do qualifying first because we did see history this weekend. Kimi Antonelli was the youngest ever pole sitter in the history of the sport by
yep,
about a year and a half, so quite a margin. Outqualified his teammate George Russell, who had some issues in Q3, only got out with about 2 minutes odd to
that's
go.
right.
So
Yes,
he would have hurt his tyres a little bit, which is why he was a couple of tenths back. But otherwise, I would have expected him to be 3 tenths in front of Kimi, as he has been pretty
mm,
consistently. Lewis outqualified Charles in third and fourth. So we've got a clear, we've pretty much got a clear front two teams at the moment. But in qualifying mode, McLaren are very close to Ferrari. Race mode, we don't even know yet because we haven't
no.
seen them race.
What have we
Oscar,
had? 1 out of 4.
yeah, 1 out of 4. And that was circumstantial with Norris tied up in Australia
Yes,
behind some other cars. Oscar qualified fifth. Every qualifying session this year is qualified fifth. That is a
yep,
really interesting stat. That qualified Lando for the second time in a row. So that's good to see. Gasly, an excellent performance, looked like the front of the midfield in the Alpine. They were looking quick and maybe got on top of that Mercedes engine a bit better than McLaren have, I think,
yes,
possibly. Then we had the Red Bulls. Max outqualified Isaac by just over a tenth of a second, as we were talking about Isaac being very close and quite promising to see. I used to watch Isaac in F3 and F2 and have followed his whole career pretty much
right.
from those formula and was always impressed with him in F2. I said to my mates, I said, watch out for Isaac next year when he got signed, and he proved me right. So I was pretty happy with that. And then we have maybe man of the season at the moment, Ollie Behrman in the Haas. Outdoing Ocon as I have predicted and expected. Every prediction I made about Ollie has come true in the last 2 years, actually. So I'm happy about that. We'll just cover the top 10. Yeah. What are your thoughts on quali? How do you think of that, Mike?
Look, I mean, quali. I find that Shanghai circuit really, really interesting. I mean,
Mm.
for me, it's more of a race circuit than a qualifying circuit. And
Okay.
I know that
Oh,
sounds kind of weird, but it feels to me, whereas I actually think Melbourne's more of a qualifying circuit
do you mean
than
that's where
than
the
a
excitement is more?
exactly. So
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I had a few mates who were going down to Melbourne for the Grand Prix, and I said, look, whatever you do, be there for quali on Saturday,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
wherever you are on Sunday, if you watch the race, you don't want to race. Neither here nor there, but
yeah.
quali in Melbourne, is a real sight because
That's
it's
yeah.
a tighter circuit, it's a picturesque circuit. Therefore, I
Hmm.
think and you've only got an hour, right? And by the
Yes,
time you have the
yeah.
breaks and whatever else, you've really only got probably about 40
45.
minutes, 45
Yeah.
minutes of driving time.
Pardon me.
Whereas I think Shanghai, there's bits of Shanghai that sort of remind me a little bit of Sepang. I'm pretty
Yes.
sure they're both
Well, they were both
Tinkle courses.
yeah,
Tinkler,
they were
Tinkle,
Herman
Helmet Tinkle,
Tilker.
Tilka,
He
Tilka.
so he designed them both around the same time, and
Yes,
they've got that very similar opening or closing right-hander curve back into
correct.
a tight
That's
left,
right.
and then a right around to another right-hander.
Yes,
Exactly the same design fundamentally. Shanghai is a far better circuit than sorry, Malaysia far better circuit
Malaysia
than
is
Shanghai. Yeah.
exactly. So that's why I say, from a qualifying point of view, China just doesn't feel like it's a real, you know,
I like that point of view. That's really interesting.
a really
I've never thought about it that way.
intense spectacle to watch.
Mm,
Whereas we'll talk about the race in a minute. But
mm.
so yeah, so look, there were no particular other than what you've called out. I mean, I think great for Kimmy to get his first pole.
Oh, yep.
And as you say, we've got two Mercs, two Ferraris, and then sort of the rest. It really comes down to then how they're converting those numbers into points in the race.
Absolutely. Which is what we'll touch on now. So we'll go through. I know you did have we have a run sheet for this episode of sorts, but we'll go through the. Well, okay. How do you want to do this, Mike? Do you want to
look? I think it's the top 10 finishes were largely as they sort of qualified. To be honest, I mean Kimmy obviously won the race from George, and then Lewis from Charles, and then Ollie, Gasly, Lawson, Verstappen, Sainz, and Colapinto. I think it's very, very hard to go past Kimmy nabbing his first win.
It was an impressive drive, wasn't it? Because when you thought George was going to start catching him, he didn't. Like Kimmy started pulling away, and it was
correct.
Yeah, it was,
and it was one of those ones where, depending on sort of what period of the race you sort of looked at, because there's a point there where I thought Lewis or Charles, particularly when they were battling, I thought, well, whoever comes the victor of this little spat, if they could then go on and hunt down, the Mercs. I think there was about 18 or 15 laps to go at that point in time. And I sort of thought, there's nearly enough time to do it. But I think it was at that time that, as you say, Mercedes were also kind of going, okay, we're now within the sort of last third, if you like, of the race, or last quarter of the race. Well, relax to a certain degree, but also make sure you win. Like it was, conserve, but strive to win.
3 laps out, Kimmy nearly lost it at the hairpin. He outbraked himself a little bit, so that was a bit of would have given him brown trousers time, I reckon, in that cockpit. It would have been pretty stressful with 3 laps to go to about you win your maiden race and then do that.
Oh, look, I think to do that, but I also think if you were in Kimmy's position where you were winning your first race, I mean, having
at 19,
but boy, oh boy, you couldn't have a better strategist / engineer in your ear with Pete Bonington. That was really nice to see. I think, and I'd love to. We'll dig into it more in future episodes, but I'd love to, drill into a bit more as to why Pete didn't go to Ferrari with Lewis.
I'd like to know why he still chooses to be a race engineer, because with the success he's had, he could be promoted within the business, within the team, easily to do something a bit higher pay, and a bit less stress. So I think it's great.
But it may just be, that's what he loves to do, and he just wants to lean in and keep doing it.
Yep, I agree. I think that's he has no reason to do it other than absolutely loving it, and now he's raising a new kid, I suppose. So.
Well, that's the thing, and I would suspect that was probably the way that it was pitched to him. That
new project.
Yeah, new project, ground up, locks you into what you love doing. Yes, you could go to Ferrari, but you'd sort of get swallowed up in the, Ferrari machine. And, given the time they had last year, that might have actually been, he might have dodged a bullet there. So I think for Pete, that would have been massively satisfying on Sunday. To have that result for Kimmy.
And relatively quickly too. It's his 26th race, so it's impressive. He's the real deal. He always was the real deal, even though he kind of skipped F3 straight to F2 and wasn't that impressive in F2. But he's the real deal. Like it's, we're going to talk about the youth of this sport in maybe a future episode, but because there's a lot to talk about.
Well, look, I think the stat I picked out this morning was, which I thought was interesting, is there have only been 36 Grand Prix winners, different Grand Prix
Yes.
winners between Schumacher in
Yeah.
1992 and Antonelli in
Yeah.
2026.
That's why it's such a big deal when a driver wins because there's not many of them.
Exactly.
It's,
You just
yeah.
sort of go, wow. I hadn't really thought about it. It was a graphic that
No.
the Formula
No.
One pushed out, and I sort of went, and you sort of go back up the list and go, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and you suddenly go, oh gosh, Schumacher. You go, gee, that's not a lot of names between the two, but obviously you had um, hugely dominant Hamilton, hugely dominant Verstappen, hugely
Yeah.
dominant Vettel.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there were lots of obviously repeats in there, but boy
Absolutely.
oh
Yeah.
boy, he's done very very well.
Very well. And there was something else about the first Italian to win in 20 years since Fisichella, who was also one of my favorite
Is that
drivers.
right? I hadn't heard that stat. Right.
Mm.
So what was Fissy's last win?
That would have been
I want to
was
say
that Brazil in the Jordan when the race was
definitely in the
finished?
draw, and I think you're right. I think it
Finished
was.
early, yeah.
No, that's right. It was that rain race where
Mm.
Alonso
It
and
was Webber
Mark had
crashed out,
terrible
right?
crashes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they had monumental crashes at the top of the hill, and I
Mm.
think it was backdated or whatever. They do a lap or two,
Yes, because they
and
gave the
I think
win to
he got it because others had pitted, and
yes.
I can't remember who his teammate was at the time, but they were in the pit, so he crossed the line and was
Mm.
technically first, and ended up winning it.
But they didn't award him at that race because they awarded it to Raikkonen because the forgotten line in the rule book was that it's the race results are taken from the second last lap, completed lap before the red flag was called. And Fisichella was in front at that point, but then he was either overtaken or he pitted, and Raikkonen took over the lead on
Right.
that last lap. So Raikkonen got to spray the champagne in Brazil, but it was the next race in Imola where there's this famous shot of Raikkonen handing the trophy back to
Yes, I have
Fisichella
seen that.
in the
Yes.
Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was back when I used to buy F1 Racing mag. That I remember that picture quite vividly.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, interesting. As we said, George. So did you want to we'll run down the teams, yeah. So do you want to start from the top with Mercedes and talk about teammate battles, or do you want to start from the bottom and go up?
Look, I don't mind. We could. I mean, look. I think let's start from the bottom. Why don't we
Yeah,
change it up
cool.
a little bit? I
Yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
think. Why don't you take it off with Colapinto and Ocon? Not Ocon. Gasly.
Gasly. Oh, we're going to go in as
Go in
in
teams. Go in teams from 10 up.
okay, 10 up. So sorry, you mean from 10 last year, not this race, or just from 10th position?
This race, just this race.
Okay, cool. Let me find my page again. Okay. Alpine. Colapinto kind of outdid himself a little bit. He raced high up there pretty well against after the safety car when he didn't pit because he started on hards.
Yes.
And had a bit of a hoo-ha with who was it at the end? Ocon, wasn't it?
Yes.
Had a bit of
And
a
Ocon copped a 10-second penalty for it,
yes,
which I must admit, Colapinto might sort of go and buy a lottery ticket off the back of that
yeah.
because depending on which point of view you took, you'd sort
I'm
of go,
glad you
oh,
said that. I'm glad you said that because I was like, that's a bit harsh on Ocon to get that because there was a gap. He's going for it, and this is why they talk about people want to see racing, but when the drivers race and they have a racing incident in quotes, they get penalised for it. So it's a
yeah,
bit. It's the
yeah,
driving standard rule book. They're kind of the stewards are painted into a corner. So because he wasn't up to the mirror, he was behind. So he's caused
yes.
the action because he's behind. But yeah,
And I think, and comes back to what I was saying before around to your point that if you look at the racing standards and the way we have to the drivers have to race, I also think they need to look at how do those racing standards apply at a particular track. Because I think,
there's
because
circumstantial.
again, coming back
Yeah.
to my point around China is that it's a very
Mm.
clinical track. It's very wide. It's everything's
Lot of
very
runoff.
it's got lots of runoff, you've got lots of space, but therefore when you do then come into those pinch points, and we saw it very briefly at that hairpin with Hamilton and Leclerc as well. Like it was, I saw some vision that sort of it was very reminiscent of Hockenheim back in the day, and so therefore you've got to, I think, apply a degree of latitude / flexibility at those tracks where you've got a lot more, where the drivers essentially have got a lot more options. Whereas something like a Monaco, something like a Melbourne to a lesser degree, maybe even something like a
Baku or something,
a Baku or a Canada, where effectively all street circuits, you can't apply the same racing standards to a street circuit or vice versa. You can't apply the same. If you're going to have racing standards that have been developed on a track like a Monza or a Shanghai or any of the Middle Eastern tracks, that's fine. But you can't then. You've got to be flexible to say, if that's going to happen there, but then it's going to be different at these tighter road circuits, street circuits. So therefore, whether you need to think about, at what point are the drivers up to each other? Is it the mirrors, or is it the barge board, or is it the rear tyre? How you make these things happen? Because to your point of going, there's a school of thought that might have said that was a bit tough on Ocon yesterday.
Well, it's kind of similar to what happened to Piastri in Brazil in the race last year when he hit Antonelli, and Antonelli went into Leclerc because Antonelli turned into Piastri. Piastri, because his brake locked up a bit, he had nowhere to go. He was going for a gap. That penalty against him, even Carlos Sainz said he should not have got a penalty for that. No. That was all on Kimi because he turned into him. So
exactly,
they need to. My hot take on the point you were making about the driving standards is that they should enforce the driving standards where imagine the line where, like, the track limit line, the white line around the inside and outside of each track, imagine that's a wall on the opposite side. If whoever was going to hit the wall and whoever's fault was forcing them into the wall, that's who gets the penalty. Because in Austin in 2024, the whole battle between Verstappen and Norris, I'm not sure if you remember, but Verstappen ran Norris off the road. Like, he outbraked himself on the inside, pushed Norris off the road, and Norris got a penalty for overtaking him off the track, even though Verstappen was also off the track.
Yes.
So that was a ridiculous penalty, in my opinion, to Norris, and that was at a time when don't want him to be winning, because I'm not the biggest Norris fan, but that might be some Australian bias coming in that, to be honest. But
that's all right. That's fine.
I mean, I like him fine enough. But, I'm not. I'd prefer him not to be winning.
But I think another way to consider it is, and again, I don't want to overdo the new technology and graphics and everything else within the TV broadcast, but even for the stewards, whether they shouldn't have a matrix of lines across the track and lines down the track, so you effectively got think of it like the set of Tron, so they can actually look at and go, right, if that's where the cars were, yes, you can look at it from a camera angle point of view, but it's a bit like the electronic lines now at the Australian Open, the tennis. You're either there or you're not. You were either at the point or you weren't. So it takes out the conjecture of, that's a camera angle from a helicopter or from a swinging boom or whatever it is. Yeah. You then start, and again, this might be something just for the stewards, but they can then sort of go, no, so and so was absolutely had the position, had it there, and therefore whoever's turned in on them, they're at fault.
How soon do you think AI replaces line people and those track limit judges?
Well, it already has in tennis. So there's no linesman at the Australian Open. Did you not notice that this year? There's no linesman.
I've not watched. No,
there's ball kids, but no lines people.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I did not know that.
No,
that's
No.
They were volunteers though, right? Were they volunteers or were
Oh,
they
I don't know. I don't
paid?
know how those.
They were,
I think those kids are
they
all sort of
keep,
little passionate tennis
oh,
players,
the
and they're
ball kids
brilliant.
are, but the
Yeah.
linesmen.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
I thought the
Probably.
linesmen would be paid because that's why they would have gotten rid of the linesmen because they're the paid
But
ones.
yeah, no. So now there's
Oh
nothing. So it's
wow.
they've obviously, however, they've made the lines work on the hard
Mm,
surface
mm.
at in
It kind of
Melbourne.
sucks
Yeah,
because
that's it.
sometimes having the human error makes the sport what it is, right? Like it makes it human, and if everything's going to be robotic, it's like if we're going to
Well, you
touch on
can
the
only do it at a
technology of
couple.
these cars
You won't be able to do it in at Roland Garros because it's sand.
because
You
of the
won't be able to do
car,
it at
yeah.
Wimbledon because it's grass. So I think it's
Oh,
really the
okay.
only thing you can probably do. I think
Is
Melbourne's
that because these pressure plates underneath? Maybe
yeah, it's effectively
I thought it
the,
was
the
just
the lines are effectively conductive. So as the ball hits them,
yeah. Okay.
if the ball's hitting on the inside, the ball's in. Because remember, the on the
Mm.
line is in,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
if you're just
yeah.
out,
Mm.
then it's out. So you take away that
Yeah,
ambiguity of what did the linesman see
yeah.
versus no, let's just make it 100% computer controlled,
Yep.
and therefore we just and they've obviously.
Gets rid of the third umpire as well, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly,
Mm.
exactly, and I don't know whether they do it in at the US Open, but certainly yeah, in Melbourne, yeah, there were no lines people.
Interesting.
So I don't think, and again, I'm surprised given how well the teams know where the car is on the track, and they obviously have sensors left, right, and centre with regards to,
Mm.
braking, acceleration, yaw, and everything else. I'm surprised they haven't, that the stewards in particular haven't gone right. Quick, get AI to do a determination of what happened there based
Think they
on
will. They will
the
eventually.
yeah. I look, I think they will too.
They just have cameras set up and they'll
and
use
it
AWS.
won't be that long. It'll be a year or two.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
suspect
yeah.
that there's probably a load of things that the FIA and Stefano Domenicali and the team are probably looking at to go right. Let's just have a big backlog of clever shit we want to
Mm.
bring to the sport, but we're going to pick our moments as to when we're going to do it.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely working in the background to do that for
Yeah.
sure. So sticking with, we'll just go from 10 down to 9 and we'll talk about Pierre when we get to Pierre, or do you want to talk
Yep.
about Alpine together?
No. Look, I think
No? Cool.
just yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Carlos Sainz as if yeah, spoiled already. Carlos Sainz finished ninth, which I thought was fantastic. I think Williams would be very, very happy to get points at this point in time. Not sure what your take is on Williams at the moment.
Look, I'm a
Great drive from
huge
Carlos.
great drive, and Carlos is. I felt for him that he didn't do more at Ferrari,
Hmm.
but I also think that he has got in Williams, and I'm drawing my words out because I'm trying to remember the name of the team principal who I'm massively impressed with.
Oh, James Vowles.
James Vowles.
Yeah, James Vowles is great. He was raised by
Oh,
Toto.
God, he's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and so I think I get the sense that, I think James at Williams, and I think Jonathan Wheatley at Audi. I mean, I think there are two extremely experienced
Wheatley's a cool dude.
people that can just manage teams, manage pressure. I mean, you want to listen to what Jonathan Wheatley's like. You listen to that wonderful, which I'm sure you've heard that it's on YouTube, but the audio of when Max had his little crash on the way to the grid in Hungary, and they play the whole audio. So for all of the mechanics, you can hear all the audio
Okay,
of when
I'm
he
not sure
comes
I
around
have.
onto the grid and when they're repairing the car. So it's this
Right.
unedited 20 minutes of how it all
Ah.
works.
I'll
And
have to look into
Jonathan's just, let's just be here, let's just be clear, everyone just do your
Yep.
jobs, where are we at, and just nothing panicked, just really, really clear, just
Like a hospital.
go and exactly go and find
you
it.
panic,
It's
you're
a
gonna lose it.
fantastic piece
Yeah.
of
Oh, Wilfred. Yeah.
of footage, and so I think James is just what Williams needs. I think Williams
Mm-hmm.
just needs time. I think it just needs and look, if it can get on top of its Mercedes power plants and and just keep focused on what they need to do. I think Williams, because I rate Albon as well.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
Albon's a heck of a driver as well. So
Yep.
I think Williams have got a great pairing there.
Hmm.
Again, two races does not a season make.
No.
I suspect they'll score a lot of points, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were finishing the season fifth or sixth.
Yep. No, I wouldn't either. I think they have the infrastructure and the personnel there to bring them back
Yep.
into at least into the back of the midfield short term.
Yep.
Into the front of the midfield, maybe by the end of the season.
Yeah.
And especially with those two drivers, I think for me, Carlos is one of the best five out there. Alex, I think he's better than Alex.
Yep.
I think Red Bull dropped a massive ball by letting him go. I think Alex was great next to Max. He would have been a great number two for him for a long time. But yeah, anyway, great drive from Carlos. Did fantastic. He did a two. Was it a two stopper? I don't know. I don't have that in front of me.
So yeah, and then Max finishing eighth.
No, Isaac. Max retired. Yeah.
Sorry, Isaac. Yes.
Oh no,
I've got
yeah,
that
he
wrong
did
there.
DNF. Yeah.
Sorry, he did. Yes. Yes. So it's yes, which again,
he was the
talking about
last
before.
unlapped driver, Isaac.
So I think that's a key point that we talked about before around. I think Isaac, these various pairings. I think the Red Bull pairing. We've talked about the Mercedes pairing and the Ferrari pairing, and I think, as we just mentioned, the Alpine pairing as well. There's some really strong pairings there that if one falls, the other's got a good enough chance to come home with some points, and that's what matters.
Absolutely, yeah. Isaac drove well. I think he had a few troubles for the race, so he, I'm impressed by him. I think he's a great racer. Liam Lawson in the V car or the Racing Bulls finished seventh. A good drive from him again, and a much needed drive from him after Arvid clinically wiped the floor with him on his debut last week in Australia. So it was good to see Liam kind of get back on top of that. Again, I'm not totally sold on Lawson, to be honest, as a talent.
No.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad we had the same thing. I don't know that he.
Look, he's
fine.
Look, he's a competent driver. I mean, I think I do feel for some of these drivers that were thrown into that second Red Bull seat. You mentioned it before with Alex, and Liam had the same situation. And obviously, Yuki sort of was there or thereabouts last year, but Yuki wasn't anywhere near a strong enough partner for Max. There were very few times that Max faltered last year anyway. But when he did, I don't think Yuki was there to sort of grab a fistful of points, a place or two behind or even in front of Max.
No one in that second car would have been, I don't think.
No. So I think, and Liam, I just think, I don't know. I think that Racing Bulls team, that second string Red Bull team, it's a good team, but it just I don't know. I would have gone with two brand new drivers this year. Like, they should almost be turning over new drivers, every year.
If they're not filling the brief, I agree, because that's what they're for. I think that they're looking pretty good. They've had a really good start to the year, though. The team, and
the best looking car by a mile on the grid.
Okay.
I love the white wheels. It looked really good in Melbourne. Didn't look so
cool.
good in Shanghai because it was overcast and the light
Smoggy.
wasn't right. But some of the photos I saw from some of the photographers in Melbourne, with the sort of the brighter lighting, that Racing Bulls car looked fantastic.
I actually quite like the Haas. I think the Haas has a really nice paint job this year.
Well, same thing. It's that white base coat, and then everything sort of on top of it. Whereas, because there's so many other vivid colours, there's so many greens and blues, and then you sort of
Pinks
put that in
orange,
context of, the greens and blues of Rolex and the maroon of Qatar. So when you look at then how the cars move around a circuit, a white car or a white-based car actually works well, because you've got a dark circuit and then you've got lots of other vibrant colours. So if you've got this white car moving through the middle of it. I think it actually visually, I think it works. I think it works really, really well.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to pay more attention because I would put it up there as one of the best. I don't like the Audi livery. I think the Audi looks
No, I
not
think
good.
Audi and Cadillac just got a photocopier and went,
Yeah,
yeah, stuck in something and went, yeah, just give us that.
Cadillac should have done better, to be honest.
Yes.
Not a fan of that.
Well, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll give them a leave pass for being new, but they'd
Yes,
better either
absolutely.
come out with something at some point that that's a bit stronger.
Yeah. Before we move on, because we've got to talk about PNX, but I just wanted to mention when we were talking about the cars, the Aston Martin. I'm not sure if you've noticed, and there's a Adrian Newey connection to it, is that when I noticed them driving around the few times you saw them on track this weekend going slow, that they have, if you remember pre, so not 2019, the rake that the Red Bull car had, like from front to
Yes,
back,
yes,
the Aston
yes.
Martin has the same. Every other car's
I haven't
very
noticed.
level. The Aston
Okay.
Martin was very rake. I have a sneaking suspicion that the Aston Martin car is a banger. I reckon it's great. If they can sort that engine out the tiniest bit, well, it needs more than the tiniest bit, but if they can sort that engine out to get up to a level of maybe not the Mercedes, not the maybe even Audi, I think they'd be top of the midfield. I think they
Very
safe
interesting.
sort of at Honda. I think the car's great. There's got some very interesting bits and pieces on it, as you'd expect from Adrian. It's very sleek. It's very compact and tight.
Right. I know
Yeah,
I hadn't noticed.
it's a
As I
good
said,
looking car.
it hasn't had enough track time, so it's been
Well, exactly. Yeah.
difficult to sort of to look at it. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, Adrian was very adamant that raked Red Bull of
Yeah.
22, 23.
No, it's pre the last formula, so it would have been 20,
Oh, was it?
2020,
Okay.
22, the new formula. So it would have been 21 and
Okay.
3. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. It was a
But no,
short-lived car.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, as I said, I think there's you and I were talking about it earlier. There's something about that Aston Martin that if, as you say, if they can just tweak a few things and just nail it,
Yep.
that car could be super quick. I mean, Honda knows how to make an engine. They sure know how to make a
Yes.
Formula One engine.
Well,
So yeah,
I'm not sure if you read the same article as me, but it was one of the Honda engine heads of the engine department at the moment that they had an engine built. They had it done. And
yeah,
Aston Martin, Adrian and was it Andy Cow? They kind of demanded some changes on the engine, and that's what made it. It was to do with bolt positioning and how it would harness into the car. So they had to change a
yes.
few things, and it's kind of thrown it all off balance. And that's
Yeah, I
what
had heard that.
has
Yeah,
happened.
I
Yeah.
can't remember where I've heard that, but yes, I have heard there was some alignment and balancing of something. So,
Yeah, yeah, which explains the vibrations and the numb limbs from the
oh,
drivers as well. Poor buggers.
but God, that must be horrendous. Just
Yeah, yeah, it couldn't
it's
be good.
drive a car with an out of balanced wheel is one thing, but
Yeah, yeah,
an out of balance chassis and everything else was just be awful.
yeah, it'd be horrible. I'm very interested. This year is a very well. After we go through the top 10, we'll talk about maybe some future predictions actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Pierre Gasly finished sixth, scoring 8 points for Alpine. Double points finish for Alpine, which is pretty good for them.
That's great.
We'll talk about the retirements in a minute too, the key ones. But a good drive from Pierre. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's quite talented, and in a better car, I think he'd be up there. He's very solid. He's a race winner. So we know he's capable. I know there were circumstances around that, but still, no
Yeah.
bunnies win a race.
Did he also have a run at Red Bull?
He did, yeah, yeah. For
Yes.
six, Albon replaced him.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That must have been around 21, 22.
Yeah, but again, just what we're talking about around the merry-go-round piece, where what that must do to the drivers' confidence and their performance, but culturally and structurally within the teams,
Yeah.
must just be hell as well. So, but look,
Yeah.
I've not really ever been a fan of Pierre's. I think the Alpine's a great car. I think is that where Jack Doohan was last year?
Yeah. You know,
I
talk
think
about the war. Poor
I'm
Jack.
I'm sort of a little bit.
He'd be doing. Look, he'd be better. My hot take. He'd be doing way better than Colapinto is. I don't
Correct.
rate Colapinto
But
at
but but
all.
everyone rated Colapinto. Like, they were sort of go, oh, get this doing kid out of
Yeah,
there and get this
yeah.
Colapinto, this
Mm.
Argentinian kid, and blah blah blah. I was like,
He's got
really?
looks and
Like,
money behind him. That's why.
well, you could argue that Jack had one of those two attributes. So it wasn't
Yeah,
and a good name, and
yeah,
sort of people would recognise it, and that never hurts.
yeah.
But yeah, I felt for Jack. I mean,
Mm.
I don't necessarily think that Alpine was the right starting ground. I don't, I think that was probably the bigger issue. If he'd have got a Racing Bulls or something like that, I
Yeah,
think he
yeah,
probably would have been.
yeah.
Again, it probably would have been the environment for a bit more learning and discovery, and
Mm.
fucking around to find out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Versus, mate, what did he get? He only had about five or
Six,
six races.
six
Six races.
races. Miami, got canned.
So therefore, you sort of go, "Oh, sorry, mate. You're costing us a load of dough, and B,
Yeah,
we're not seeing any progress." So yeah, but
yeah.
I think as you say, a double points finish for that team is nothing to be sneezed at.
Definitely not this time of year. Ollie Behrman, driver of the day-ish after Kimi.
I think
Um,
so.
a great drive to fifth for Haas. Haas looking great. Speaking of Jack Doohan's their reserve driver, which I'm very happy he's there, to be honest, because very soon, I'm saying hot take again, but I think very confident maybe within the next 3, 4 years that Toyota will officially take over that team, being that they're the key sponsor and the technology partner. I think
Yes.
Toyota want to come back. And Haas, Gene will probably be ready to sell once the team's worth a couple of billion. He'll go, cool, no worries, all yours, Toyota. And to make Toyota make their own engine.
Look. I hope you're right. I just
Mm,
my only reservation, and it's a very very basic one, but my only reservation is that it just
the next financial crisis.
well, I mean,
That's my reservation.
Japan's kind of already in it. Like, Japan's in the
Yeah.
depths of. I saw some chart the other day around government spending as a percentage of GDP, and
Oh,
Japan
wow.
was just so far off the chart
Wow.
that. So I think there's that, and then secondly, I think if Honda's not doing well, then Toyota, I should say, will be very apprehensive,
Yeah.
because they'll be going, look, if
Yeah.
Honda can't make a fist of this as an engine supplier, what are we going to do by, as you say, buying the Haas team and plant and equipment and everything else for
Yeah.
a bill or two?
And if a war does happen, a full-blown war breaks out,
Well,
then all
if-
these manufacturers are going to pull out because it's money.
correct.
Yeah. And we'll have no formula.
And exactly, and what else happens with the formula? So I think, I mean, I think you're probably right that Gene is probably looking to shape Haas to be saleable. But will it be Toyota? Could it be, I don't know. Could it be Porsche? Could it be someone else? I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, I know they've
Yeah.
got
Well,
Gazoo Racing in there, and obviously,
Yeah.
so there's a foot in the door, as it were.
Yes. Yep.
And I noticed they've got their logo right at the top of the halo, so you can't miss it when the cars are going round. And yes, Porsche's obviously got a group alignment with Audi, but yeah, I would hate to see. I would certainly hate to see in the next decade the number of Formula One teams go backwards. I don't care if it stays where it is for the next decade. No problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I would not like to see, oh, hang on, we've ratcheted back from 11 teams to 10.
I don't think that will happen. I think it'll go to 12 because I think that's what's written into the Concord agreements, and it's pretty much the maximum. I think we'll get another team at some point if someone can afford it. It's probably come from Saudi once the war is over.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest issue will be the OEMs leaving because of financial crisis that could happen. So if we lost, Ferrari will always be Ferrari. They stay because it's basically a free sport for them. They don't pay anything. It's just market exercise.
No.
But if you lost Mercedes, if you lost Honda, would easily pull out, especially if they can't get it right, and Aston Martin go, we should have stayed with Mercedes. Renault pulled out I mean, they've even gone to Mercedes. So
Yeah.
we've got no Renault. They didn't want to build an engine for this one because of some very bad decision making. Audi came in, which is a great sign that we got one new manufacturer. Ford, I guess, are technically new, but they're not really doing much in
No.
reality. It's like it's Red Bull. It's just kind of money
It's a
on the
marketing thing for
table.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a bit of cash to fund the staff a little bit, probably. There's
Well, it's
no.
a bit of that, and I think it's they've pissed a couple of billion up against the wall with their EV
Mm,
experiment, as many have.
hmm
So I think Jim Farley, the CEO, was out in Melbourne, and he's been up in Queensland and over through New South Wales the last week since
Right.
Melbourne, sort of visiting dealers and going out to the
Okay.
proving grounds and seeing what the new Ford Ranger Super Duty is like. He's been really,
Yeah,
really sort
right.
of backslapping the Australian market. Um, for that very reason of sort of going, be visible, but at the same time, don't forget we're in Formula One now with Red Bull, and
Yep.
so Ford would be, I suspect, Ford would I think would be a bit, what's the word, sort of unhappy with where Red Bull's finished after two. Again, it's only after two races, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I would have thought they might have expected more. So, and particularly given that McLaren has sort of faltered, that
Yeah.
that you really should have
Jeez.
seen a Red Bull or two up in the top six, where you haven't really seen them
100%.
anywhere in the last couple of races. So,
Absolutely. You would expect them to be fifth and sixth if McLaren weren't there. So it's
correct.
yeah, then they
Or,
yeah.
mixing it with the Mercs and the Ferraris, but
Yeah, absolutely.
you would have to think that, and look, the same probably goes for Red Bull as a whole team. They'd be looking at it going, guys, we should have been absolutely there. With McLaren out of the way, we should have been there to grab all of those
Definitely.
points,
Yep. Absolutely. There'll
or
be
more.
there'll be lots of discussions, I think, back in at the Red Bull ring at the
Yeah.
headquarters, I reckon.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's and no helmet Marco to rip into people now, so it'd be interesting to see who's ripping in if it's not helmet.
Yeah.
Because he drove a lot of that team through stress, I think.
Oh, I think culturally, I think he would have been. He way overstayed his welcome.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think yes, I think he was. He's like the sort of the former chairman of a company that sort of hangs around to sort of be a director. It's like, no,
Yeah,
you've
it's to
done
exert some
your
power.
time.
Yeah.
Like off you go. Thanks very much, but
Yeah.
have you?
Dude was in his 82, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's a very long time to be traveling around the world.
And I also don't think he was adding much value. Like I don't imagine
No,
he was, because I think he
no.
was originally brought on as a talent scout, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, he
Or
was.
talent development.
Yeah,
He was sort of,
yeah, yeah.
you
Well, I mean, most of the drivers in that he's responsible for. He's the one that went out and found them, I
Yes.
guess, technically.
Yeah.
Probably with his own watchers out there watching
sure.
people, but he's the one that makes the final decision. So, I mean, his last two hires were Arvid and Isaac. I'm just going to say
yeah.
Isaac because
Hadjar, yes. But
yeah,
that's fine. But being a talent scout's one thing, but hanging around like the aunt that won't
oh
leave.
yeah, yeah.
Just go,
No, I
So
agree.
I think that look. I think the only downside of that is that they've, their loss is Audi's gain. That not having Jonathan Wheatley then around just to sort of push that through. But
That's Red Bull's biggest problem, I think, is the brain drain that
Yes.
they've lost. They've lost so many people. I think Rob Marshall, who went to McLaren, was very underrated there under Newey. Prodroma as well.
Yes.
I think Pierre Wache, I think did he go to Aston Martin or is he still at Red Bull? I don't even know who their chief.
I don't know. I must
CTO
admit, I
is.
haven't had a look at the personnel lists recently,
No.
which I must do before we next catch up. Because
Yes, definitely.
I think, as I said, I mentioned it before about Jonathan Wheatley, like just getting the right senior people in there. And I imagine most of the Audi team is obviously the Stake team, the Sauber team, whatever it
Yeah.
was from
Yeah.
from recent years, and all sort of based out of. I
Hinwil.
presume they're still based out of Hinwil in Switzerland.
Yes. Yeah, still there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of sort of institutional knowledge and experience built up there. But I think across the teams, I'll put that on our list for after Suzuka, because I think,
Mm,
as I said, some of the teams have got some really interesting changes in dynamics that that I think are worth keeping keeping an eye
absolutely.
on heading on into the
Yeah,
rest of the year.
I agree. Those guys play as an important part as the drivers, in my
Yeah,
opinion, the management. Yeah, the way teams are run definitely affect and how they operate on course, and that brings me to Ferrari, who are notorious for how they are managed and how they operate on course sometimes. Because third and fourth, we had Lewis in front of Charles this race after a pretty epic battle throughout a lot of it. Which is probably what cost them the race time to Mercedes because they
yes,
would have screwed each other's tires, and that's why they weren't able to catch when you were talking about that before them catching.
yeah.
It's just like once they've
And
raced
I
that
think
hard,
Lewis made reference to that, I'm sure,
yeah,
in the media pen afterwards.
right, okay,
After the race, he said that his left tire had. I didn't actually say which one.
yeah,
I think he just said, "Oh, my left tire was shot," and blah blah
mm,
blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, okay." But
mm.
I would presume it was his left front.
Yeah, it was the left front for all of them because
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
tire that gets worked the hardest. But it was great to watch a battle between teammates, and that's what I'll talk about it after we talk about the front too, if you want. So yeah, obviously, as we said before, Kimi won his very first race, and George came second. Yeah, Kimi controlled it from out front pretty comfortably. Was kind of not much stress for him, apart from maybe as was a virtual safety car or it was a full safety car. Right,
full.
he had his first full safety car restart. Had a bit of a lock up 3 laps from the end, but otherwise he was pretty meticulous, I thought.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think. Look, I mean, Ferrari. Ferrari doing well is good for Formula One. Ferrari doing well is
Yes,
good for
yeah.
Ferrari.
Mm.
So I think, again, I just think it's
Good for
it's
Fred Vasseur too.
good for Fred. I love Fred. Fred's
Yeah.
fantastic. Fred's very good for Ferrari. I think he's probably a very
Yes.
good balancer
My
for that team.
One of my worst predictions was thinking he would run Ferrari further into the ground, and I'm so happy to be wrong because I did not think he would have done what he's done, to be honest.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. I think he's done very well, and I get the sense that um, he's a bit more hands off. Like I
He's
think
a bit more chill and relaxed. Like
bit chill,
he
bit more
trusts his
relaxed, and I
team.
think he's probably got some
Mm.
good people around him. So that's why I say I want to dig into some of these team personnel structures
Yeah.
and organisational charts just to kind of see how and look at the comparison between the teams and how they operate. Because I think that they're going to be the things that are going to change, or think of it the other way, they'll be the things that will sustain good
Mm.
performance or middle of the road performance as we go deeper into the year.
Yeah.
Because you've seen it as much as I have. You can have a great start to the year, and then very rarely does it transcend the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had the Brawn GP year, and that was an anomaly for the ages.
Yes.
We obviously had the Ferraris in sort of 2, 3, 4, 5, but I think in the
Hmm.
modern era, I probably with the exception of Red Bull, a year or two ago,
Yeah.
it's and Mercedes before that, it's not enough to kind of go right. Well, Mercedes have won the first two, double 1-2 finish. That's all she wrote. See you
Season's
later.
over. Yeah. Yeah.
No way, not even close.
That's okay. That's a great segue into maybe some prediction talk for maybe for the first half of the year because it's that development race that I think is going to keep the interest in this season alive, and that's
Yes.
losing Bahrain and Jeddah is going to have, especially at this time of year, is going to have a big effect on some teams who haven't had enough running. So if
Well,
they,
well, it's interesting. I was going to ask you because I haven't read, and I should have, but I'll dig it out and I'll have a. I haven't read the official comms from the FIA, but I would presume that there would be some pretty significant lobbying in Suzuka to say,
yeah,
"Hey, we're about to have a 4-week break, 3
yeah,
races into a season.
mm,
Now is not the time for any of us." And I'm saying this from the point of view of a Toto or a Fred or whatever are going to be
yeah,
at the FIA saying, "Hey,
mm,
we need some latitude
yes,
when it comes to what we can do during this break time."
One of my
Because I
very
think to
first,
your point is exactly that, is going, hey,
yeah.
McLaren's going to be the first. Zach will be the first person to put his hand up and say, hey, we need some running time.
Um, I agree. One of my first posts that I put on my KerbRider F1, I think it was just Threads or it was on my actual Instagram page, but I was like, if we're going to have a month off, at least give the teams three days in between there. We can have a testing session in either Barcelona, Portimao, or
Yeah.
Imola. Just
Yep.
do
Yep.
at least another 5 day private testing like they did at the start of the year, but the teams can attend three of them. Like, let them have some running
Yeah.
to maybe
No
close
private.
the
Don't make it
gaps.
private, because everyone's
Oh
if
yeah,
Formula One
everyone's going to be
suddenly
itching
goes
for
into
some
a
F1. Yeah.
4 week void
Mm,
of what's going on, you're
mm.
better off going. You're better off, as you say, have it at a Portimao or have it at a Paul Ricard, have it at a
Yeah,
track
yeah.
where they can really, open the taps and
Yep.
the photographers can get there and the media can get there and so forth, and
Yeah.
really see the cars running, because they will be essentially, races in lieu of races.
Yes. And let
And,
them
and, and, at,
race.
and at least it gets Formula One cars into the sports pages and into people's social media feeds and the like.
Yeah, they need to do something because it's only good for the sport and good for the fans if the teams who are lagging behind can do some running, especially like Aston Martin, and McLaren. Be
Aston,
nice.
McLaren, yep,
Yeah.
and Haas,
Um, and
and
yeah,
maybe Audi,
Cadillac for sure.
Yeah.
Even Williams, so they can get some weight down as well. But just and also run both cars. Don't just have one car per day. Like have both cars out there at the same
I have
time
both
per
cars
team.
running, have your reserve drivers running. Like
Mm,
it should be an opportunity for a lot of the teams in the lower half to
mm.
really push through.
But the interesting thing when we come back from Japan, without that month break, there's two sprint races again. So they're not going to get running there either. We've got Miami and Canada in a row, both sprint races. So we're not
Yeah.
going to even get three practice sessions in those. So these teams are going to come in so raw still. And by the time we get to June, round 8, which is Monaco, which is still not going to be representative, it's not going to be till mid-season around Austria, Britain. We got
Well, I was going to
Barcelona,
say
I
it's
suppose.
the new round 7 at Barcelona, and then Austria. I don't rate that Red Bull Ring track. I
I
just think
love.
it's
I
too
think it's
short
great.
and
I
too
think it promotes great racing though. It
well.
promotes
Well,
such great racing.
well. Yeah, isn't that
Even
funny?
during the boring years, it did.
Yeah. Whereas, see, I think Barcelona is a great circuit. I think
Barcelona is a
Austria
great
is a good
circuit, but you
Austria is
can't
a good
race on it.
qualifying circuit. Again,
Yeah,
it's a good
yeah.
qualifying circuit. I'm not necessarily sure it's a good racing circuit. Where Barcelona, I actually think, is a bit of both. Barcelona can be a good quali track and a good race track.
If the regs are right, but there's not a lot of overtaking in Barcelona. Like it's kind of there can be just nose to tail a lot there.
It can
Yeah,
be, yeah.
yeah,
But again, by then, hopefully, fingers crossed,
yeah.
we've got some of this stuff worked out, and
Mm,
we've had a good show in Miami, because we finish up with the Japanese Grand Prix on the 29th of March, and the
yep.
Miami Grand Prix is Sunday the 3rd of May. So
Mm,
that's a 4-week break. That's a
yep.
big gap.
It's massive. And I am kind of guessing that if if things settle down in the Mid East, then I reckon they'll do away with the summer break in August and put those two races in there. Climate
I
climate will
was
not be good.
about to
It might be
say
a bit
that
bloody hot. But they're
it'll
night
be
races too.
possibly. Look, isn't it funny? I haven't heard anyone in anything that I've been reading or listening to. Everyone was obviously highly speculative if they would be cancelled, and I think that made a lot of sense. But I don't think I've heard anyone say that they could/should be
Oh, they'll be
rescheduled. But
replaced. No, they're not officially cancelled. They're postponed because
are
the
they
official
right?
wording
Okay, that's
was
what I
they
say.
won't.
I haven't read that release from the FIA, which I must
No, well,
get and have a proper look at.
The FIA's or their press release said
Yep.
they won't be raced in April, is what it says.
Right. Okay. Good.
That's the
Okay.
official wording. So yeah, they'll come back. They'll squeeze them in somewhere. Being that they're night races, August would be very smart if they did a double
Yep.
header, and then they could just wear their cooling vests if it's too hot.
Because there's
Uh,
no other real. Because then it really is fortnightly, almost, and or
mm,
weekly, right
mm.
through to 6th of December at Yas Marina.
And there's a lot of logistics to work out what time of year they can get there and have that stuff in that part of the world, like shipping containers and whatnot that
Well,
travel
you're
around.
right. So
So
you really could. I mean, if you were clever, you could go off the back of Hungary at the
Hungary,
end of
yeah.
July, and then get everything. Well, either by road or by can't. Sorry, by ship or by plane to the Middle East, and
So
then
you've
do them. Could you do them back to back? Were they back to back in the
Well, I
schedule?
would. I'm looking
I've
at it
only
now.
got
Yeah,
the
they
new
were.
schedule.
They were. Yeah,
They
they were
were
April
back to
12
back.
and 19. So
Right.
you've
Okay.
got. So you've got Hungary on the 26th of July, Netherlands on the 23rd of August. So
Yeah,
you could
Dutch
put
Grand
them
Prix.
in. Um,
So you could
do-
easily, even if you
you
put
could do
them
a
in.
triple header. You could do a double header with Hungary to be a triple header Hungary, Bahrain, Jeddah on the 2nd and 9th, then have a fortnight to get back to
I would have
Netherlands.
thought they'd have a gap after July, so make that like let's say it's the 3rd of August,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or the 2nd of August, then
Yeah.
the 9th of August, then you've got a couple of week break back to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Zandvoort, and then you're done.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I did. That's what I said. Yeah, did I say different days?
Oh, sorry, no, I thought you were saying triple header. So do
Oh, it would
the
be it would
26th.
be it would be a triple header with Hungary because Hungary's 26. So you go,
Oh, sorry, I get you.
yeah,
Gotcha.
you go Hungary, Bahrain,
Yeah, right.
Jeddah, yeah, as a
Yep.
triple header.
Yep. You could do
And they
that.
could do that. Hungary's not too far. Like it's probably a
No, no,
4 hour
no,
flight.
no. That's probably doable. I mean, Zandvoort's probably a bit stretchy, and then they're off to Monza. Then they sort of come back down into Europe, don't they? Because I forget we've
The
got
new
two in
Spanish race, which I don't
exactly.
know if that'll even happen. I don't know how that's progressed the build. It doesn't. I do not like the circuit layout. I think the circuit layout's horrible. I don't
I
like it.
haven't had a proper look at it. I was only thinking of talking of circuits that didn't get a run the other day. I was someone mentioned it, and I'd completely forgotten about that track that was built in Hanoi in Vietnam. And,
Oh yeah, that looked great.
that looked great, and I'm
The
so
only
sad that didn't happen.
the only way you can race it, I think, is on the official F1 game for whatever year that was. 21? 20,
2020,
20. It was 2020, of
it was
course. It was
2020. Remember,
COVID.
it was
Yeah.
literally ready to go,
Yes. Yeah.
and COVID hit.
Yeah, it was a cool circuit.
Yeah,
Such a shame. And yeah, probably wouldn't have
yeah,
lasted long anyway from Do you know a circuit I really did love was the circuit in Korea. That was a great track because I used
yes,
to race a bit
yes,
on gaming, and
yep,
it was
yep,
a great track to race on. It was really
yep.
technical. Yeah, it's
It
good
was very
fun.
technical. Broke Australia's hearts when Mark crashed there in
Yes, I
the
was going to
rain.
say that's where Mark lost his
Um,
2010,
yeah,
unfortunately.
2010, 2011. But yeah,
Yeah,
around
it's
that time.
2010. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Um.
very disappointing.
Anyway,
Look, predictions.
yes.
Okay, I'll go first. So top three come the end of Hungary.
Mm.
I'm going to say Lewis will be leading the championship
Wow.
from George.
All right.
Um, from George and I had it written down here before. From George and Charles.
That is I'm gonna ask okay, I'm gonna ask for a bold prediction later. I think that's a bold one, but I'm gonna ask for another one. For Lewis to be leading in Hungary, that's bold. I think Lewis or Charles will win. I think Ferrari've got Monaco locked down just for the nature of that circuit.
Yep.
I think they will
Oh,
smash Monaco.
well, Charles very strong there, but so too is
So's Lewis, yeah.
so's Oscar. So
Yeah, but I don't think the McLaren will have the overall pace. I think Ferrari's engine, because they got that smaller turbo, it's a bit more
yep,
punchy and have a lot more torque to get out of it. So I think Ferrari will
true.
have Monaco locked. I think every other circuit's going to be Mercedes, and if McLaren can pull their finger out, be McLaren. I think if once McLaren pull their finger out, if they can, find a bit more points of downforce and unlock the engine software and get the running on that.
Yep.
I think they'll be the second team. I think Mercedes will win the championship full stop. But coming Hungary, I think it's going to be George leading, Kimi leading, Charles. I think.
Right.
I
Okay.
think China is a weak circuit for Charles, and so is he says he's Australia and China are probably his weaker circuits on the calendar.
Yep.
I think he'll have Lewis's number most of the season. It won't be every race, but I think he'll have him
Yeah, isn't that
overall.
funny? We were talking about it earlier. I don't know.
I
Just
rate.
something about. I know you rate him. I know
I think
it's not
next
that
to
I don't,
Max,
but I don't know. I just think there's something about a happy Lewis in a
Charles.
Ferrari is a good
Yes,
thing.
he reinvigorated Hamilton is a big danger, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree, but I think he'll push Charles so much that I think Leclerc is the second quickest driver out there overall.
Yeah.
As in for one lap pace, he's the Hakkinen to Verstappen's Schumacher, in my opinion. Hakkinen had the better one lap
Yep.
pace
Yep.
than Schumacher, but Schumacher was way more complete and a race pace driver.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Hakkinen was a better driver, one lap driver.
Mhm.
I think you're
Yeah,
absolutely right on that. And he,
yeah,
particularly circuits like, I remember he was very strong in Imola. Apart from that one race where he had that
yeah,
awful
yeah,
spin on the last corner and put it into the
yeah.
wall.
Oh, God,
He
that
was
broke my heart watching that live.
well. And then remember he did it again in Monza.
99 was such a tough season for me because
Yeah,
it was so stressful watching Mika just nearly bottle it. It was horrible.
but he was a great. He was, and I would imagine probably still is. A very good peddler. So he did very well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting.
yeah.
Very
Do
interesting.
you have
Well,
any
we've got
other,
some yes.
do you have a bold take? What do you think is something that you think may happen that might be left of field? So
Look,
someone
I
might get a
don't.
podium, someone might
Oh, look,
do this or that. I don't know.
I think that I think it's well, I think the bold prediction right now is, and again, it's bold slash unpredictable because
Mm.
I'll be very interested to see what these cars are like in the wet.
Yeah, I know.
So
That'd be
so
scary. Talk.
once we start when we
Oof.
have a wet track, and if it's
Could be
and if
Japan.
it's hey.
Could be Japan.
Could be Japan, although
Mm.
Japan's changed a different time of the year, so it's spring up there now. So I think the
Yeah.
weather's likely to be a lot more favourable.
More
But
likely,
I'm
yeah.
thinking more along the lines of, if you had a wet Canada,
Oh, yeah. A wet Monaco would be
if you had a
dicey.
well, don't tend to get a wet Austria,
No,
wet
Monaco,
Bel
sorry. Wet Monaco would be
wet
dicey.
Monaco, yeah, or a wet Belgium.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's my bold prediction of look for potentially a repeat of Jordan in
Belgium
um,
98.
Belgium '98 exactly.
Well, hopefully without that crash at the start.
Yes, but you're talking then about someone like Carlos winning. So there's my bold
Mm.
prediction. I reckon Carlos will
Yeah,
win
no.
one race this year.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Is that I thought you were giving an example. I was gonna
No.
cut
No, I just as I said
you
it, I
reckon
just thought
Williams
actually
will win a race?
that's where I'll go. I reckon Carlos will win a race this year.
I'm writing that down. That's bold. I'll have to
Yeah.
remember that. I think my biggest one would be I think Ollie Behrman will get a podium at some point this year. I think Haas is capable of that
I don't think that's
in a
bold enough.
particular race. You don't think that's
That's
bold
not
enough?
bold enough. No, I reckon he's going to do it in
Okay.
the next 3 races.
Really? Ollie
Yeah.
Behrman?
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Okay. I hope you're
Yep.
right.
I don't. Yeah.
Not bold
Yeah.
enough. Okay, bold enough. I think Cadillac. Hang on, let me take that back.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Careful.
I'm just looking at my spreadsheet.
Yeah, you've got the stats.
Well, my
Maybe
biggest.
just shut your eyes and point.
Well, I thought that was a pretty bold prediction having Behrman on the podium.
Only reason I say that is
Piastri will start a race at some point.
that could be bolder than you think.
Yeah.
No, back to Behrman. I just think from what we've seen, as I said, China's a proper racing circuit, and I just think to bring that Haas, which is not, talk about massively over delivering on an underperforming asset.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He did incredibly well, and I think he's got a huge amount of talent. He wouldn't have substituted for who did he substitute for? Lewis?
Carlos in Jeddah. when Carlos had appendicitis.
Was it Carlo? But he was with Ferrari, wasn't it?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah. He subbed for
yeah.
Ferrari. You don't do that if you haven't got, you know, a fair old pocket full of talent. So no,
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
I think you'll find Behrman could well be. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Behrman
Hmm.
has a podium by Barcelona.
Interesting. I like. Okay, you got two hot takes. I don't have one now. Well, I've announced plenty in the thing. I reckon Cadillac could snag a point this year. I reckon one of those drivers is capable, and if we have a wet race, a lot of retirements and crashes, those type of circumstances, Cadillac will score a point this year.
Okay.
I think it's possible.
I
Um,
I think that's fairly bold. I heard someone say the other day that I can't remember if it was Valtteri or he was talking to someone maybe, but I could have swore that someone said that they weren't that Cadillac weren't expecting a point until 28.
a point.
A point.
Well, I think they're underselling themselves. They'll get a point if they don't do it this year, they'll get one next year, surely. I
Oh,
know they
they
plan to
can
have
be hard to come by. If you've got a
apparently.
strong Mercedes, a strong Ferrari, and a strong McLaren,
Mm,
and even if
Red
you've got a
Bull,
so-so Red
Williams.
Bull,
Yeah,
there's 8 positions.
yeah, yeah,
Therefore, you've got
yeah.
13 more, 12 more, whatever it is, 13
Oh,
more,
okay.
14 more.
I can't. I don't disagree, but you was going for bold, so I went really bold. But okay, this is something we touched on before. I think Honda can sort itself out in the last half of the season, maybe the last quarter of the season,
Yeah,
and Aston Martin will get a point.
that's up there. Yeah, that's good.
I think with the way the engine rigs are tailored so they'll be able to play catch up and put more development in, I think Aston Martin, because I think the car is great. I think they'll be capable because they were only 2.7 seconds off. They made up about 1.3 seconds from Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a big catch up just from one race to the next. I don't think they're going to make up 1.3 seconds by Japan again, but um, I think they can score a point in the last quarter of the year.
My other bold prediction for Aston, because I keep forgetting about them, is that Lance doesn't finish the season.
I had the pre-season, I had a bold prediction that I don't think Alonso will. If this car doesn't show any signs of improvement, he could go by summer break, Alonso. But I think we could both be right with that.
But if you were Adrian,
Mm.
if you were Adrian, and you had the option of, and you had a, you
You
had the
wouldn't pick
option of,
Fernando and Stroll, an old guy and a
well, you
muppet.
wouldn't pick them up front, but if you had to pick one to stick around, I mean,
I'd be Alonso.
exactly, you just,
Yeah,
Adrian
yeah,
go, listen, Fernando, can you
yeah,
just give me a number, and we'll happily,
yeah.
we'll back the armor guard truck up to your house and,
Well,
empty it out. But and if that happened, if I was Fernando, I'd turn around and say, look, that's great. Here's my price, and
yeah.
the Canadian twit needs to go.
I like the prediction. I think Stroll would have to want to go because I don't think Adrian will have much say especially when the car's this shit. If the car gets good and Stroll's on up to pace, then
That's what I
he'd
mean.
have more
Sorry,
say.
and that's the caveat. I
Yeah,
think off the
yeah,
back of what you were saying around,
yeah,
if
yeah,
Honda could nail it,
yeah,
and I agree with you, I think they'll be so determined to
they're
make that
capable.
car right.
Yeah,
The Japanese, they'll want to save face. They will be going, shit, we're being
absolutely.
outdone by Ford
Yes.
and and Mercedes and
Yep.
Ferrari and who else have I missed? But
Audi, everyone.
an Audi, and you suddenly
Yeah.
go, God,
Who's another new engine manufacturer. So
exactly. And you
yeah,
go, we effectively wrote the rule book on how to build Formula One engines, 2 decades ago, and here
yeah,
we are, we couldn't win a
yeah.
billy cart race.
Well, the engine they did
That's
with
not
Red
good.
Bull after they left McLaren was a banger. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was amazing engine, uh, and what I've read about what's happened at Honda because it's very much in line with the Japanese culture is that once a group of engineers has successfully delivered a project, they move on to bigger and better things, and then the new
do
group
they?
come
Right,
through. So that's
right,
what's happened with this Honda. This new engine hasn't been designed by the same guys because some of those Honda
right.
guys stayed with Red Bull powertrain. Some of them have gone into other projects in Honda, but I think what Honda will do, if they're not already, they need to, is bring some of those guys back who are still in the family
Yep.
and
Yep.
develop this engine and learn from, because the engines aren't that dissimilar to what they were running before. It's just the battery,
No,
really.
no,
And
no.
I'm
Just
sure
they've
they've got
just
some,
the regens just away from the turbos and back onto
yeah,
the brakes
yeah,
and regen.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, exactly. So if they're building hybrids, I mean, this is why Toyota will build an engine, because Toyota are the biggest and probably the best hybrid manufacturers
Yes.
on the planet.
Yep.
So they're sharing that technology. They what they're doing there at the moment. Maybe my take is on not Toyota taking over Haas, but actually just making their own engine, becoming and Haas becoming a works partner of Haas. Because Toyota want to
Yep.
sell more cars in America. Haas is an
Yep.
American team.
Yep.
Toyota are learning from that Ferrari, clandestinely getting that Ferrari IP and learning what they're doing with batteries. And they'll Toyota
Yes.
will go back
Yes.
and compare them to what they put in road cars and go, bang, 2 years time,
Yep. Yep.
2029, Toyota could have an engine on the floor.
That's
Um,
that's a that's a very nice. That's a very hot take. I like that.
yeah, I think it's a very possible hot take.
And that's where I think what we were talking about before with Toyota is that we- more, sounds stupid. More is more in Formula One. So
Yes.
not necessarily having Toyota buy Haas and take Haas as a full works team, but if Toyota was to say, "Hey, Haas, we're gonna now we've got an engine offering," and it could be Haas and there could be others who take it, who suddenly go, "Yeah, we'll have a bash at that. Thanks very much."
Oh, well, I think Haas have set themselves up with the right company, because I think that without it being announced, I think that is probably part of a future plan contract, is that
Yes.
because they are there as technical partnerships, and Haas are
Yep.
now using the Toyota wind tunnel. McLaren
Yep.
don't anymore because McLaren built their own.
Right.
Um, so it's a great partnership, and I think it's
Yeah.
a very smart business. And Gene is a business guy; he knows what he's doing,
Oh God,
obviously.
yeah.
So he's setting himself up, setting up his great grandchildren, I think, with this sale. So, well,
She
not
should.
even
Fair enough.
sale, but if they get good, then they're going to get partnership and more sponsorship, and that's what builds the brand, right? So,
Well, and that's why I say more is more. Like, if you
yes,
could keep
yeah,
Haas,
yeah,
keep another American team, and then keep Haas, get Toyota in there, get another engine. So then, what have you got then? You've got then six engine
six OEMs,
manufacturers.
yeah, yeah.
That's pretty good. So effectively, half and half the field. You know,
Some other teams would come on board with Toyota, like a Williams would be happily take Toyota engines again, I reckon. Especially, they're a good company to trust. I mean, their V10 was pretty special.
well, and that was. I was funny enough. I was just having that thought and going, don't rule out BMW coming back into Formula One.
No, well, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
Especially when they're seeing value in it, and the sport is high profile now. It's big money. It's free advertising. Like I said, Mercedes, they I saw this was a few years ago. It was even maybe post COVID, but Mercedes get $3 billion worth. They did the math, $3 billion worth of advertising from running a team where they were spending 500-600 million. This is
yeah,
pre-budget
yeah,
cap. So
yep.
that's so to get that same publicity, theoretically, they have to spend $3 billion around the world to get the same publicity that they're spending. It's the sixth of that on. So
Well,
it's a
I think
no-brainer.
look, it is a no brainer, but I think what's important is when you're in Formula One as a full blown team, full blown brand team like that, shit, you've got to have the right machinery sitting in the dealerships. And you
Yeah,
could
absolutely.
actually argue that BMW probably haven't for the last decade, but they are
No,
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Audi haven't, but or sort of have and
Well,
haven't, the 50-50.
if
But
Audi
I think
build,
they've got some good stuff coming, hence why they're coming in now.
yeah, Audi need to build cars where the indicators work, and then they'll sell some, I reckon.
What was that?
Audi need to build a car where the indicators work, and then they'll sell
Well,
some. I've never seen an Audi driver indicate yet.
No, I know. And so I think that's why I say I think BMW,
You
again,
don't drive an Audi, do
they've got
you?
some really interesting stuff coming down the line.
Yeah.
Both electric and some of their hybrid stuff. And also,
Well,
don't rule out a Hyundai or a
I was about,
BYD or
I was
someone
about
like
to
that.
say, 15 years ago, I've been, since the new formula was announced for 2014, I've been saying Hyundai need to come in with Williams would be perfect for
Yep.
Hyundai to go with. And if Toyota come in, you could see Hyundai traveling behind them. And there's already been word of BYD
Yep.
sniffing
Yep.
out buying a 12th team, another franchise, actually having a 12th franchise or buying, I think, Racing Bulls. I think it's one of those two. I'm
That'd
not
be
sure if you've
interesting.
heard of Joe Saywood. Do you know Joe Saywood?
Yes. Yeah, I know, Joe.
Yeah. Do you get
Yep.
his mag?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Which do you get the Grand Prix Plus or JSBN?
I just follow him
Oh,
on
okay.
Twitter or Threads or whatever it is.
Yep.
Like I just see stuff there occasionally where he posts.
Yeah, yeah.
Or is he? No, he had a blog. What was the blog called?
It's called Joe Blogs F1, I think.
Joe Blogs F1. That's
So
it.
I actually haven't seen. No, I have. Sorry, he sends out his blog by email. I subscribe to his email,
Yep.
but
Yep.
this year I haven't bought it in a long time. But I subscribed finally back to Grand Prix Plus, his magazine. I'm actually ready to read it because you get it pretty much within 12 hours of the race. Depends
Right.
on where you are. So it's a great magazine, but I'm advertising for you, Joe. Come on to our show because he's one of the smartest, he's the best Formula One journalist brain on the
Yep.
planet. Between
Yep.
him and David Tremaine, his co-writer, and David Tremaine's just amazing as well.
I'll put Peter Windsor in that trio as well.
Peter Windsor is great, but he blows a lot of hot air, Pete. I think. So I'm sorry. If you know these guys, like as in personally, but for me,
I've met Peter and spent some time with him years and years and years ago.
he's very smart.
Just a good brain.
Oh, yeah. I used to love reading his articles in F1 Racing Mag where he would describe a driver's driving style.
Yep.
And that's kind of turned me onto it. So I appreciate him for that. But I know I love him because he works with Scarbs a bit. Obviously,
Yes,
you both
he
talking
does.
about Scarbs, yeah. I kind of not met Scarbs, but I kind of had just like talks with him once because we both used to kind of comment or write for a blog called Side Podcast back in the day. Joe Saywood used to interview with them.
Yeah,
They
right.
had a fight and then he went to Missed Apex, Joe did. So I listened through, but he hasn't been on there for a little bit either. So,
Right.
but I love Joe's one, just the most logical. Hasn't missed a race since 1988. Like
Yeah.
he knows everything. He's forgotten more about the sport than most of us will ever know. So
Is he an Aussie?
no, he's British, but lives in
He's
France.
a Brit.
But
Yeah.
he has got relations or he has cousins in Launceston in Tasmania.
Right. Yeah,
He's
some
related to
reason I
people down
thought
there.
there was an Australian connection with him, but
No, he's actually in the F1 movie. If you can spot him in the F1 movie,
was he?
on one of the grids, you can see Joe. Yeah,
Oh, right. How funny.
yeah, it was great. Yeah,
That's
yeah, I'm a
great.
big fan of him. Just very smart, very logical. And I can't remember what path I was on there, but free advertising for you, Joe, for our free listeners at the moment.
No, absolutely. It'll be good.
We've done our predictions.
Mate, I think we're
Japan.
done.
Who do you think for Japan? Do you want to talk about a
geez,
Japan prediction?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, I'm gonna throw down a prediction of Max to win in Japan.
I don't think Max to win. I think Max could podium in Japan because I think
Okay.
it's definitely a Max circuit. If anyone's going to be quick there in an average car, it's going to be Max.
Yep.
Because it's very much a driver's circuit.
Yeah.
But I just don't think anyone can beat Mercedes around. I mean, they've got the car, their race pace, the way they're looking after the tires better than any other team. Because they have that clear air mostly, apart from Ferrari starts, but they're just looking after their tires. The first two races, it's been concerns about there should be two stops, should be this, but they get on the hard tire and they're lasting 40 odd laps. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's because the cars are driving slower through the corners. But
Yeah.
even
Look,
with the graining, so
I think the only thing I just think you've just got to be careful with in Suzuka is back to my point earlier of it's a race circuit.
absolutely.
There's a lot
Yeah.
going on. You would have driven it in sims and things. You haven't got the wheel pointed straight ahead for very long. There's a lot of this and a lot of that and up and down and in and so. I just think
fantastic circuit.
I don't think Kimi's got the experience yet to.
He won't beat Russell. It's a Russell.
He won't beat Russell. And the other thing I think
without something untoward, I suppose.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
The other thing I think, which is something we must, I'll make a note of and we'll touch on in future things, is I don't get the sense Kimi doesn't look physically strong. Like he's a little fella, but he
Yeah,
just
yep,
doesn't
yep,
look. Every time I
yep.
look at him, I keep thinking of what's his name? The Valentino Rossi. Like he's a
Yeah,
carbon copy of Valentino
yeah.
Rossi. So there's not much
It's a
of
good
him.
point.
And so
Physical
I wonder
circuit.
whether, as you then start to get into the season a bit more, the
Mm,
physicality might,
yeah.
whether the physicality might be catching up with him. Whereas I think George is supremely fit,
Yes.
as I think is Lewis and Charles, and
Mm,
I think Max and the McLaren boys are fit too. So
yeah.
I just think there's, you know, Japan can be Japan can be a hard physical weekend.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's very logical take to me. As you were talking though, I was thinking that this Ferrari is very got a lot of downforce, and McLaren said like well, Lando come out after Australia and said it's insanely quick through the corners. So
Mm.
a lot of corners, a lot of mid to low speed corners in Japan and mid to high. So I think Ferrari could excel there. I still don't think over a race they'll beat Mercedes. They could out qualify them though, I think. We could
And
see
also
Leclerc in
you
front of
yeah. Look,
Antonelli.
it's yeah. Yeah, the other thing about Suzuka, don't forget, is there's a lot of undulation.
Yeah.
You're going up and down quite a bit too. So
Hmm.
I think there's, you know, and again that can be for cars that have got good balance of aerodynamics and torque
Yeah.
and their steering, you know, the front wheels are really connected to the back wheels.
Mm.
Again, Suzuka rewards a car that can do that. You know, look at going back to talking about Fernando in whenever it
Yeah.
was 05, 06, when he went round the outside of Michael at
Yes.
130R. So,
Yeah.
you know, when you've got a car that's right there, you'll drive away from the rest of the pack. You know, Kimi did it, you know, I think 2 or 3 times there.
Mm.
So I just think that yeah, if there's something that Red Bull have got that might be coming through, and equally, you know, it could be McLaren. But I just think after the pressures of the first 2 races for Mercedes and for Ferrari, you
Mm.
know, Suzuka being at the start of the season rather than at the end, and it's a proper racer circuit.
Yeah.
I just think there's a potential there for something to be different, and as you
Yes,
said
I
earlier,
agree.
you know, and throw in weather there,
Yeah.
which I think is one of the reasons they moved it was to avoid the monsoonal stuff that they
Yeah.
tended to get at the end of the year. Then it's anybody's game.
I think there's definitely I think every race this year could honestly have the potential for chaos. But Japan will definitely have the potential for chaos, and that's what's keeping me well, no, it's what's keeping me very entertained this year, actually, is
Yep.
even though we have those teams out the front clearly on pace wise, still it feels like anything can happen still.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be wild in Japan. Hopefully it's not boring.
No, no,
And
I
hopefully
don't think
McLaren can
anything.
get the
I don't think
start.
anything's even close to settling yet. I think yeah,
Mm,
you've got to have. We haven't had a full grid
no, no,
for any race,
mm,
so
no.
fingers crossed for that. Um, and I just don't think that there's. Yes, we've got 2 big names at the pointy end, but even if you push them to one side, the
Mm,
other the other 14, no, 16 races, 16 cars
yeah,
capable of anything.
absolutely. The midfield could be,
More, 18 cars.
yeah, 18, yeah,
18
yeah,
cars, yeah. So you
could
then
be really
suddenly go,
interesting.
oh, okay.
I definitely think there'll be, for me, I think, especially through quali, there'll still be the same fight between Mercedes and Ferrari, but I think
Yeah,
Ferrari could get the edge because of the circuit itself. But I
yes,
think Red Bull will fight back and they'll be fighting with McLaren again. I think
yeah,
it'll be an interesting race between those as always. But from
yeah.
there, but again, yeah, those 2 teams can end up anywhere. Anyway, Japan thoughts. Let's see how right we were and how wrong we were.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up. Should I say that? No, that's all right. Doesn't matter. Fun fact: Japan is actually the circuit that kind of gave me my name, KerbRider. Um,
Really?
yeah, because I might as well tell it while we're here. Because when I was playing on the old PS1, the Formula One game on PS1 with some
Yep.
friends, and I was just because I was very, very good at that game because I played it so bloody much. Just with the old D-pad. I was able to drive through it and just ride the curbs because it's a very curb riding circuit.
Yes,
And you
yes.
have to be on them to be fast. And that's what we were talking about with what cars going to excel is ones who can have that softer suspension and ride those
Yep.
curbs are normally the better ones. And I was doing that through the whole lap. My mate was like, how are you riding the curbs like that?
Yeah,
Like so consistently because I just played it over and over and I
just have
yeah.
to.
And I just kind of gave myself the name KerbRider from that. So
Yeah,
that's
nice.
how
I
we
like
came to
that.
be. I
That's a
should have
good
told that
story.
story.
But it's a
Yeah.
but it is, particularly you think about that circuit, particularly around um that right hander under the bridge,
The
and
Daniels,
then
yeah.
130R, then the chicane at the top of the hill, and
Mm,
then the S's, and yeah,
yeah.
there's um
It's a fantastic track.
coming out of the spoon curve, and before you go up to 130R, you
Yeah.
massively smash those curves. So yes, no,
They,
you're absolutely right.
yeah. Yeah, you've got to be on them.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's, I wish I still raced. I need to, I got the urge to race again. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. This is, yeah, an intro from me and Mike. So
yeah,
this is probably a longer episode than we'll normally get, but who knows? We're both, men of a certain age who like to rant a bit, I suppose,
chat
but
away
that's,
exactly on a
yes.
Monday evening.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends, like, subscribe, share. That'll help us out and let us know how we're tracking as well. And if you like, give us some feedback on the KerbRider F1 Instagram or Threads page channel. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. I don't know how to sign these off regularly, but there'll be some outro music, I'm sure. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for
Beautiful.
joining.
Thanks,
Love to have
mate.
you here.
Talk to you soon.
No worries. Bye.